Hi, I'm Catherine Porter, and I am a practicing attorney here in California with over 20 years of litigation experience. And I'm also the founder and principal consultant of The Resource Woman. And we work with law firms and lawyers to set up systems so that even the most complex matters run more efficiently, smoothly, and more profitably. So today I'm going to talk about how we set up a matter in ClickUp. There are a lot of different options, but what I'm going to show you is the one that I use and I found the most helpful in most cases for litigation. Now, if your practice is high volume or really particularly complex, you might need to make some adjustments. But again, this is what I found works in most situations. So ClickUp is structured in a hierarchy, and at the top level, we have spaces, and those are sort of the big cabinet of wherever, and then we can use folders and then lists and then tasks to represent our matter and track it. I have a whole other video on the hierarchy, so if you have some questions about that, want to deep dive into what a hierarchy is and how to take advantage of it, you're definitely going to want to check out that video. Okay, now I'm going to show you an example of how you might set up a matter in ClickUp. I like to use a space, which is the highest top level of the organizational structure, and have that space be client work. And then underneath that, I have individual folders for each matter. And within that matter, I set up lists. And lists are kind of like the file folders we used to use. We have, communications, correspondence, we have notes and research, we have discovery, we have pleadings, things like that. So I put them in individual lists. And so you can see that over here on the left. I just made this dummy case called Stanley versus Sunrise, and I've got all these different lists kind of breaking it out. And one of the things that I think is really important is to have your people, who's involved in the matter. That's opposing counsel, consultants, experts, clients, of course, and you could even put your team members in there, although I'm not sure how useful that would be. Anyway, and so, because I have actually a separate folder, a separate space for contacts, but I bring those contacts into the matter folder when they belong there. So you can see in this Stanley versus Sunrise folder, I have my people list, I have my case management list, and this is where I put all the important deadlines and cutoff dates and manage them that way. And so you also have like hearings on motions or other kinds of hearings, case management conferences, whatever it is, anything that really has like a deadline at the case level, that you need to be aware of as a manager or as the lead attorney. You want to be able to make sure that this calendar captures everything. And one caveat is when it comes to like cutoffs and briefing schedules, you want to make sure that you're checking on the rules of civil procedure or whatever your local rules are, anything like that, to make sure those deadlines are accurate. So I have my initial pleadings list, which is my complaints and answers. If it's demur, motion to strike, then you're going to want to probably put that on your law and motion list, but you can relate it here to, and I'll talk more about relationships in just a minute, relate it to the particular answer or complaint that the motion is, or the challenge is, relates to. So then like I said, I have law and motion here, and that is where I put any motions that need to be done. And again, motions have their own workflow, a little different than initial pleadings. So we want to give them their own list. And then we go to discovery. Okay, and then I have two lists for discovery. I have my written discovery for RFPs, requests for admissions, special interrogatories, things like that. And then I have depositions as a separate one. And that's because the workflows are slightly different. And that's sort of my decision point on whether I create a new list or if I just keep everything together on one list. And I know some people like to actually break it out even further, where written discovery that's being propounded is on one list and written discovery to your clients is on another list. And that's really just a preference. I think it's fine to have it on one list, but I could see both ways. Document management is my next list here, and that is really towards kind of keeping track of productions that have happened. You don't really want to use ClickUp as your document storage, but it's helpful to keep it up to date and know exactly what's been produced. You can even put the Bates stamp numbers on there so that you know where to pick up again if you have a new production to either get or send out. Now, communications I do a couple of things with. You could break it out separately, but I use this for communications between my client and myself, or I could use it for communications with opposing counsel, even like stipulations, anything that kind of goes back and forth that's significant. You don't want to get too micro here. I don't need to know about every email you send. I just want to know what is significant. Is it a meet and confer letter, a settlement negotiations exchange, something like that that you really want to kind of have it out there and up on the list where you can find it, you can see what the status is of it and where it is in the process. So that's a really important feature and distinction on the communications list. Next, we have research. Research is pretty simple. It's either done or not done. And if we wanted to relate it to a motion, like if we've been served with a motion for summary judgment and there's a particular causation issue we need more further research on, we could add that topic to our research list, and then we could actually relate it to the motion that it relates to. And again, I'm going to talk about relationships in just a minute. So the last list I have in here, because typically it's at the end of towards the end of litigation, and that's trial prep. I actually have a template I've pre-populated with different trial tasks that happen. You might need to add some. Again, you could do the motions in limine as their own. You probably want to put them on your trial prep list, but the actual individual motions you might want to put on your law in motion so they go through the drafting workflow. Okay, I know this looks kind of daunting with all these different lists, and it maybe looks a little complicated, but it really, from a user perspective, it can be really helpful because it helps you drill down on exactly what you need to see. If you are the associate and you're drafting discovery, you go to your written discovery and you can see what the due dates are. You can see, you could make a comment and have the reviewing attorney take a look at it and say, hey, this is ready for you to review, things like that. So it really, helps everybody see kind of where things are, what they need to see, where their pieces are. And we can use automations, which is a great feature in ClickUp, or sometimes it takes actual manual hours to relate these tasks and create relationships so you can see how things relate to each other, even when they're on completely different lists. So I'm going to give you an example of that. So now I'm on my law in motion list, and I am going to add a new task. Let's say we have a motion to limit expert discovery. So I'm going to type that in, motion to limit expert discovery. I created a new task, and I could set the due date fields. That's really an internal, for the way I set it up, that's an internal due date. I could assign it right here. I'm going to assign it to Kate Associate. That's her job to do that. I could set a due date when I want to see like a first draft or something, a priority if it's really urgent, and then I can just hit save. And if we wait, we have it set up so that it automatically will create a hearing on the case management list. So let me go over to my case management list, and there it is, hearing on the motion to limit discovery. Now, I'm working on how to set it up to automate this as much as possible in terms of setting the due date, because on the case management list, I use due dates as the hearing date. So it would be great if I could pull it from that related task, but so far that's still a work in progress and something I'm hoping to develop. So I have to go in manually and set the due date. So I'm going to set the due date to be June. And so now I have my due date here, and I can see that on the calendar. If I click into the calendar and look at June, I will see the hearing on that motion. Now let's say I want to know, where is the drafting? Where is the motion in terms of drafting? So I can do some things. I can relate the two tasks to each other. So I'm going to open up my hearing on the motion to limit discovery. And if I scroll down here, I can see I can add a relationship. So I'm going to add a relationship to the task, and I want it to relate to the limit discovery. So there it is right there, because I just created it. It's right on top. So I'm just going to add this relationship. And now those two tasks are related. So when I go down and I want to know exactly what the status is of that motion, I can click here. And here's the task that relates to actually drafting the motion. So maybe it's, drafting. So I know Kate's drafting it, and it hopefully will be ready by the due date. As you can imagine, it actually takes quite a bit of time to set up a matter in ClickUp, but like so many other things in life, the more prep work you do and the more careful you are with your prep work, the better the result. Like cooking. The more careful you measure your ingredients and, follow all the steps, you're going to have the delicious meal at the end. And so it's really worth it, because eventually, once everything is done and set up and running, you'll find that it actually saves you a lot of time and money. So if you like what you've heard, be sure to subscribe to this channel so you can be the first to know when I post a new video. Until next time.